Hello and welcome to Link Ahead, the City of Dublin podcast. Today we are talking about an exciting and history-making development coming to historic Dublin called Riverview Village. And with us are COhatch CEO and co-founder Matt Davis and Dublin's Economic Development Director Jeremiah Gracia. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump right in because we got a lot to talk about. So Riverview Village will be an innovation district in the heart of historic Dublin. Matt, you first. What's your vision for this?
Well, probably the first thing we want to do is, since Jeremiah did such a lot of work, there's a big bronze statue of him shooting water out of his mouth and some other stuff. So I think that'll attract just about everyone off the bridge.
Was that a big announcement today?
That is a big announcement. You heard it first. But no, this is our biggest initiative we've ever had, honestly. So besides all the historic restorations that we're doing in a village for COhatch, for us, we truly want to be an anchor of economic activity for Dublin and also an anchor for human connection. And what that means is the vision in the future is to have over 1,000 companies working in Riverview Village, probably 300 or 400 startups, every great nonprofit in Dublin, free access as much as possible. And just we want people to know that if I ever want to take that next step, start a company, grow my business, go to COhatch, right? But it doesn't stop there because we really work with Dublin quite a bit to integrate it to all the public as well. So we want, one of my favorite sayings, I want everyone who walks across that beautiful Link Bridge to have a reason to come over, whether it be walking your dog on a date night, with a spouse, with your kids, everyone to come over. So everyone's welcome. So you'll see tons of activity from weekend farmers markets, weekend makers markets, sip and strolls, all that type of stuff that truly engage the public and allow people to kind of walk in 100-year-old restorations and kind of get a feel for what Dublin used to be, all while kind of setting the tone for the future. How do we make Dublin even better? How do we make my business better? And kind of move forward that way. So it's a pretty big vision, but it's one of those amazing spots that you probably can't go wrong with, being right in the heart of Dublin.
Well, you're right. When we cross that bridge, it'll be right to the left, and you'll be like, what is that place?
Yeah, I think my favorite part of it is that the red little cabin in the woods there, it has so much potential and is covered with all these trees people really didn't know was there. But that'll be one of the big magnets that get everyone to come over there, kind of a cafe, bar, restaurant, kind of a really cool, swanky vibe. But I love dimensions in our spaces. So everyone knows how great the AC hotel is. You're up top looking down. For the first time, you'll have a perspective being in the woods and the trees, looking up at the bridge, looking up at everything. And whether it being snowing or sunny days, kayaks, all that type of stuff, you'll have a truly unique experience in kind of the heart of a district.
All right. You mentioned restoration. Let's dive into that a little bit more. How many spaces did you kind of save and are you restoring as part of this project?
There's 4 restorations. I think we just talked about the red one, right? So there'll be an expansion with that one. And then there's 3 older houses that date back, I think, between 80 and 120 years, I think. Don't quite quote me on that. But the cool thing about those is we really didn't want to place permanent office or uses inside of them because that means that only a certain number of people get to experience seeing what they look like. So we're going to fully restore them, turn them into kind of off-site retreats for people so a company could come and have an own private house for a day or a week, big outdoor patios, et cetera. And then they're open on the weekends so that one of my dreams, we did a lot of interviewing of makers and they kept saying, we don't really need space. What we need is a place to showcase our brand, showcase our art, showcase our products, and develop our brand. I said, what better place for it to be than off the bridge, all these different markets, walking through the houses. I always think of it almost like parade of homes, but you can see makers and as you walk through and everything. So yeah, that's what we really want all public people to experience those restorations. Right.
Well, you mentioned all the work Jeremiah has done on this.
That was a joke.
And countless people throughout the city. But these talks really started in 2019, Jeremiah. Share a little bit more background on how this came to be.
Yeah, so in 2019, Matt and his team, embarked on sort of this next phase. At that point, I think we were going to be like the 4th or 5th location for COhatch. And essentially said, hey, we're interested in redeveloping what was formerly the Brazen Head, and then adding another 10,000 square foot co-working space, which is what is existing today for COhatch. And so we went through that development review process and talking with Matt about some of the things he was looking for in a community and selecting and what he had a vision for his first co-working space in Dublin. And we supported that project, what you see there now on North Street and I guess Riverview today. That evolved in about 21, 22, the city had purchased a lot of these properties down on North Riverview and released an RFP and said, hey, we need to find a development partner to repurpose these spaces that have historic value but haven't necessarily been maintained properly. And so Matt and his team submitted to that RFP, was selected for 4 of those properties, as he mentioned, and that evolved into what is now the plans for Riverview Village, and we'll go into construction and break ground this spring.
And we put out RFPs all the time. I have to say, with this, would you ever anticipate something this big coming out of that kind of like casting that net?
Part of that RFP process was to encourage whoever was interested to sort of think big about this, right? And so Matt and his team obviously have presented some things there that some of them have, in fact, come to fruition. Some have gotten even bigger than what was presented there. And it has also helped us as a city really, really hone in on the public infrastructure investments that needed to be done to support a private development project like this.
Well, let's stay on that infrastructure. The city of Dublin is investing $11 million in infrastructure. So can you talk about what the details are in that investment?
Yeah, so the majority of that money is really into the streets and sidewalks, street lighting, important infrastructure that each of these buildings will need, services they need for these, and then stormwater to make sure that this area is truly be usable year round.
Yeah.
It's also an area that we knew that we needed in that North Historic District, as well as on the west side of the river, to really activate the space. These public infrastructure investments needed to be done to make sure it was, in fact, following the cues both of existing redevelopments in that area, as well as this new Riverview Village concept. And so, we jumped in with that and understood through our partnership agreement that we needed each other to make sure that we made the public and private investments to support a redevelopment of an area that had a historic value, but also needed create its own next generation space for the community.
And this is really your bread and butter, Matt. You restore historic spaces and then really bring them to life. You talked a little bit earlier about what we're going to see in this concept. We're talking about 2 acres of walkable space with a unique focus on innovation, technology, the arts, nonprofits, entrepreneurs, and small business growth. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, just a fun fact. I think in 2015, when we started COhatch for the first time, I had a map of the future vision of what I wanted to see with COhatch and develop into kind of a suburban co-working model. It was much more about co-working. It's much more about lifestyle. And kind of our mission is to help people pursue their dreams at work and in life. And back then I looked back and I showed Dublin as the headquarters of COhatch in 2015.
Wow.
Just so I knew how
That
Dublin.
is funny.
I've always wanted to be here. Yeah. So just the reason is because, when we got our first location up and running, obviously we sold out, we did really well with it, but everybody we worked with starting this development has added value with the city. Over 100 people, I think, have touched this project with the city in all departments. And I could genuinely say it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of work with no value for some cities. But with this one, every time someone touched it, they made it better. And the project went from this vision of what I thought was possible through a collective effort of hundreds of people in different departments who all have their own passion to this. So you see what it is today, right? So that's how it grew in some areas. Actually, some areas shrunk because it didn't make sense and some areas were added. So I think we won the RFP because our approach is to come with cities and say, what is your dreams? What is your vision for it? Can we see it coexist with our vision? Restoration is important to us. I think it's the heart and soul behind everything. I think there's something fascinating about saying your innovation district and all this new technology is going to be in the heart of historic Dublin, right where Dublin was founded, and bringing. I think everyone just feels a soul there, right? And they feel comfortable being there. So that's kind of why, we put a lot and spend more than tearing things down would it cost to create that, because you just can't replicate what was built 100 years ago for character and function for us.
So you mentioned, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, and actually, just to be more specific with Matt and, the 100 plus people that touch us, right? I think it's important. I'm blessed to be here today to talk about it from our partnership and where I've been able to be a part of it. But just to mention some other key staff members by name, Bassem Bitar from a planning department has been, he's used his training and architecture background to be a real value add for this project. And I know Matt and him have had a lot of conversations, as well as Matt's architect team, about how to enhance this project and maintain character, but do some very unique things. Jeannie Willis on our transportation mobility, even Mitch Ament as our management analyst, just coordinating many, many different partners internally and externally to make sure that when we had this meetings literally every week, and still having some of those now every other week as we go in implementation, really, really important detail work that needed to happen, as well as managing consultants throughout the process. But I think Bassem and Mitch were the sort of heavy lifters in this, and still are doing a lot of it, and they should be noted and recognized for that work.
And I want to piggyback off of that and recognize the ARB, Architectural Review Board. I know you've been there a few times, and that's one of the volunteer groups in our city who they get to review projects like this, like Matt says, make them better, and then just be part of something really exciting that's going to be here for generations to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we've got the smaller statue of Jeremiah, and then there's smaller statues.
No statue.
Okay, all right. So Matt, when you had this vision for your headquarters in 2015 in Dublin, now fast forward, what does your headquarters, what's it going to look like?
Well, it's it'll be our third new build we've ever done. We needed about 15,000 square feet, not only to house what we need as a company, but also all those people we're talking about. So we expect 30, 40 different private offices inside of it, a bunch more space for co-working. You can't find a seat half the time inside of our current location now. And then we're going to do something a little bit different where we have a large demand for large meetings or events over 100. So there'll be a place for that as well. So you'll be able to have during the day. That's one of the things I actually love about what we do is our goal is to try to activate that Monday through all 7 days a week. I wouldn't say 24/7, but in the evenings during the day. So we'll have larger meetings, guest speakers for entrepreneurs, all kinds of things in that meeting room. You can get breakfast at Red's before, you can get a drink cocktail after, you could have a wedding reception, you could have anything, any type of special event there. And all of our members get to use our spaces for free for personal events. We call it free life events. So it's one of the things I'm most proud of. That I love watching people tag us on Instagram about their having a 5th grade birthday party or a bridal shower, a baby shower, just celebrating life's moments there. We really want people to feel like with a membership of COhatch, you have access to all of our resources for your life and for your work. So I think with City of Dublin, and moving forward, some of the other partners we have coming on board, we do want to push the future a little bit more with this one. And that's where a lot of the innovation words come from. It's because I think people are a little bit scared about the future right now. They're a little bit scared of what AI, what technology is doing. And the only way you become unscared is through learning and through working with others, adapting and figuring out how to use technology to push yourself forward and push your business forward. So we want this to be a place where people know they can go learn and have support groups. And honestly, I love when they get to meet other entrepreneurs. This person might have failed miserably, but they're going to teach you why. This person was very successful, and you can learn from them as well. So innovation is much more about a community of people than it is about some product or some room. And that's, to me, what we're trying to create there.
Wow. This is a hugely ambitious project. You mentioned earlier, Matt, that it's maybe your biggest undertaking ever. Why undertake this now? I mean, thinking about all the things that are going on, and you have, development's not getting any easier, less expensive, and this is so big. So why is this so important to you?
Well, now, meaning like 3.5 years ago we started now. But at the time, like for us, it was very clear, like I said, from the vision that we had for COhatch. I think we have 12 locations in Columbus now. We needed this big center of gravity that everyone could come back to. And it honestly, like divine intervention, coincidence, luck, whatever you want to talk about, this opportunity presented itself to us. I know when we built the first location, I kept hitting around, hey, what are you doing with that? What's going on back there, right? Timing, the timing was great for us because we were growing and we had a need, and also Dublin was sold out. And for us, it was, honestly, we didn't think we were going to win it, right? So we apply for it, we get through it, and I'm like, oh, we just got this horse by the tail. We got to ride this thing out. And then all of a sudden it worked out to this beautiful, large, ambitious thing. And our company grew into it really well. So, sometimes things work out for a reason.
I mean, we have our retreats at the existing COhatch location, and I'm so glad, Lindsay, when you schedule those, because I know, I'm going to get great coffee when I'm there.
We made it this far in without mentioning coffee.
I know.
Thank you for the espresso machine.
Love it. We were wired. Is that whole meeting?
Soda water.
But the space is just so inviting and inspirational, and you talk about tying in, weekends and evenings. So paint a picture what this is going to look like when I show up on a weekend and I start walking through this space.
If you want to talk about weekends, I think the great thing is going to be seasonal. So like we could create different events, because I know you guys are doing the Christmas Village across the river, right?
Yep.
So if you look at it, every weekend's going to be a little different. So we could play. So we already had meetings with the Arts Council with Dublin. I said, whatever you want to do, I'm giving it to you. Like we could do sip and strolls with your artists. We can do work with the Historic Society. We do all kinds of events there. Working with the Teachers Association. One of my favorite events I've ever done was in 2017. I did a kids market where my kids made slime and cookies and they sold it, did some other stuff. But you're teaching them that,
right?
This is how to be an entrepreneur. This is what you sell. You keep some money, reinvest it in products. So we expect to do a lot of family-friendly events. I expect to do a lot of more fun events too, where I call them yard sales. That's not the right image for me, though. It's like think makers markets in the middle of downtown historic Dublin, where glass blowing, different things you could see. Some of our best furniture manufacturers do all of COhatch. I would love for them to just set up and stage a house, and you could walk through it, meet the person, those type of events. I want to do larger pitch competitions. I want to do entrepreneurial fairs. I want the public to see 200 startups line the streets and you just walk up and down and meet one that you could say, this resonates with me. I'd like to invest $5,000 or $10,000 with this person. It could be a baker. It could be an AI company, right? So the weekend should be unique. I mean, worst case, we'll have the kiosk. We'll use Dora and we'll put some bounce houses up and we'll have a good time, right? And then I think it'll pivot once it gets into the weekday a little bit in the evenings. But I expect a lot of formal events on Saturday nights and, casual events on Sunday afternoon. So something for everyone, especially with the park coming on board. So as that park plan gets further defined, I expect there to be a ton of vibrancy off the Link Bridge down to us, to the kiosk, down to the park, onto kayaks. So I could see summer days being filled, like we'll probably have a smoker outside, different smells. You'll see kayaks, you'll have a drink, you'll have a beer, kids walking around, things like that. So it should be pretty neat.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the river very much, but this is going to be just truly a way to, weave some activity around the river. You're talking about a restaurant. We're finally going to have a riverfront place to go grab some food. What do you envision there, really like along the water?
Oh, I think it's probably the funnest thing to think about. So I love this. Again, I love the seasonality piece of it. Imagine you could open the windows on a day like this and you have heat lamps and you have a cup of coffee. In the summer, I expect a lot of vibrancy with the kayaks, with people walking the bridge. I want to see kids come over and get some sort of refresher type of drink. I want them to get a latte. I want them to walk through it. I just have this vision of think campfire in this house by the woods. Like I want your cocktail to come out in a flask that pours into a martini glass, a s'mores cocktail. I want a s'mores tray for kids that you come out and roast your own marshmallow and put it all together. So I think Dublin defines it is a family-oriented city, and we want to make sure that families can interact in our spaces and in this restaurant. But it'll have definitely a very unique vibe to it. We already have a world-class chef that's on board that will help us, kind of curate the food with it as well. So he just has to be a little patient.
Well, as you're talking, it's no wonder that you and Dublin are such a good team, because I'm sitting here thinking about the city's vision to be the most sustainable, connected, resilient global city of choice. Jeremiah, talk about how Matt's vision really aligns with the city's vision.
Matt's vision, what he's described so far, obviously covers things from enhancing the experience of a pedestrian bridge that we built to really even step up our game of what was Bridge Park, and saying this pedestrian bridge was connecting the east and west. And they said, what are you connecting? Well, now we're connecting you to Riverview Village. And so that is the sort of the connected city portion of it. Sustainability efforts, obviously, we're doing a lot of these types of projects and trying to build sustainable, not only just environmental sustainability, but truly sustainable developments that have multi-use and attract a multi-generational visitor, right? And also when you have folks not only just from within Dublin or the area, but visitors alike from literally across the globe. It's saying, hey, I'm visiting Dublin, Ohio, and but for its bridge that it has and its infrastructure and its parks, and you fill in the blank, I don't get to explore the east and west sides of the river and have that experience that I could have in many other places. And certainly Matt has done these projects in many other cities across the United States and even in Ohio in historic areas. But again, this will have its own unique identity and its own unique feel, and also serve as their corporate headquarters. That when the next project after this one's complete and is going to finish this one first before starting another one, when we do that, bringing those other communities to us and saying, here is this project, here's where they call home, here's the cues you can take, and you can just selfishly say, try to be like us, but at the same time, tipping our hat to sort of the historic. The history of what the era it was and what it has moved from with this new development, and even utilizing some of the most historic structures in the historic district.
Well, great point. And that's kind of tricky, Matt, when you talk about combining historic elements with new construction. How do you, get through that process?
Part of my job is to lay out this vision. And I do think that's the first of its kind nationally, that's ever been done. I can't find any other co-working flex space style of village anywhere, and especially with a collaboration with a city like this. So it should be a one-of-a-kind type of thing. I set the vision out there, then I do an amazing job of bringing in experts and relying on the city experts and kind of getting out of the way for a little bit, and then kind of steering a little bit because I have to balance functional use versus character versus all these other things. So luckily, we have Tim Lai Architecture. They've done a lot of the projects in city. We have Hanlon Rinaldi as our construction provider. And my partners, Joel and Elizabeth Limes, that co-founded COhatch with me, they are some of the best brand designers in the country. And they put their stamp on everything. And the amount of thought and energy put around, I call it engineering collision. It is, how do I move people? How do I move people from the bridge to this spot, to this spot? Now, I want them to always collide. There's a reason we only have one kitchen in our current COhatch location. I want everyone to have to get coffee from the same spot. I want those connections to happen, those conversations to happen. So the same thing with it goes to the pedestrian style, walkable neighborhood. I just envision people moving from our current building down to a house over to our other building and meeting all these different people, right? So there's a lot of engineering that goes in behind it. And then there's a lot of practical nature of, trust me, the devil's in the details, and Bassam and Mitch are unbelievable. If they ask you one more time what the diameter of this piece of wood on a corner, I'm like, I have no idea. But I'm sure it's going to be great. So, it's a painstaking detail to make it as authentic as possible, too.
That's awesome. All right, Jeremiah, not that Matt and his team looked anywhere else, but can you describe the competition that that city faces attracting new businesses?
Certainly, the folks like Matt and many others doing development or trying to hang their shingle for their company. They're trying to pick a community that matches their own corporate identity and brand, if you will. And they see that as a value proposition for a couple things. One, their individual corporate identity. So they're going to be proud to bring their customers to that community. Two, their employees, right? And retaining employees and recruiting employees. To a place where they say, hey, I'm willing to get up and drive to a physical location when I need to, and also bring customers and be with my coworkers and have those collision spaces in a place that I'm proud to say my office is in Dublin, Ohio. I would also say that even when Matt as Matt has alluded to, where his other properties are across the country, even when Matt we're still working on this, like there were times where I visited other communities that I knew their COhatches were opening, and I took the time to go visit them. And, during this time, Over the Rhine was just opening up, and I was driving through Cincinnati for my coming back from my family's vacation, and I took the time to go visit that physical space to feel what that was about and how they have a Finley market just outside the front of it, but just to say, like, okay, how does this resonate with us in terms of the vision he's been describing to us and what a real property is that is opening and what it's doing. And then the nuance between opening a facility like that in a downtown urban core in a suburban city like Dublin. So we're always benchmarking ourselves about what other places are doing and how they have complementary assets to the companies. And trust me, it's a very, very a challenging environment to do business development today. Costs are real, as Matt knows, and they're very real. But more importantly, they want to understand that when there are things to work through, that they have a partner, public-private partnership like a city, to help them through design elements, through infrastructure, through sort of professional support and expertise in trying to solve, tricky problems when you get into construction and design. And so that's the number one thing we can set ourselves apart, is that experience, right? How does that customer experience? What do they say, so that when they're done, they say, yeah, I've gone through some challenging times because real estate development is challenging, but I'm willing to tell my friends and family that they should invest in no place else but Dublin, Ohio.
You mentioned public-private partnerships, and that might be something that people don't exactly understand. So can you, Matt, talk a little bit more about why those are so important for projects like this?
They're absolutely critical, especially now with inflation and construction costs and things like that. But a lot of times people think, it's one of my biggest pet peeves. It annoys the crap out of me, honestly. People think private-public partnerships mean the developer gets a whole bunch of stuff and the city loses. Mm-hmm. So I think it completely falls. So I think a great one like this is where everyone wins. So that's what a partnership is. So for us, we win by getting the expertise of the city, unbelievably spot to build. We invest, the city invests, we attract. I think the future is going to be way more about having thousands of small businesses, entrepreneurs. So we'd have 1,000 companies there between 1 and 5 people. Some of those companies will grow into 1,000-person companies. Some will stay 7 to 10 people company, but they're still massive economic engines for cities. It's just a different defragmented way of building a company instead of one large headquarters coming in. So for us, we could help incubate the small business, and we're not like necessarily like Rev One where it's a certain industry. We're trying to incubate the person who wants to take the first step at anything, being the first step of an accountant or a law firm or a startup company. It doesn't matter what they are. You're giving them a place to launch that from that point. And it all adds value inside of downtown, which then there's a ripple effect. Monday, Tuesday lunch is more filled up, and the historic district, vacancies close. I have seen it 38 times now. When we build something, the broken window effect around us starts to move. And Dublin doesn't have a lot of broken windows, but it still has vacancies. It is one of the best suburbs in the planet, and there's still vacancies because Amazon, the world shifts. Mm-hmm. So you have to fill those vacancies with novel uses. That's where we slide in. But we want to help that person step out of us into something different. And the house down the street got expanded, the other historic thing, we inspired them to take a shot doing something. So it does ripple. So to me, there's win-wins everywhere. And hopefully it's a partnership that's not like, oh, this is a grant for 3 years. Hopefully this is a 200-year partnership that we ain't going anywhere. It's a pretty big thing. We want to be here for a very long time. And we didn't mention it. We restore things with pride, but we also, our new builds are meant to be legacy new builds. We want them to be there for hundreds of years, not a strip mall, not just a cheap building. We want that to be able to be there for hundreds and hundreds of years as well. So it costs a lot more, but again, it's worth it in the long run.
Yeah, so a true public-private partnership for us is when time, risk, and money are reduced for both parties. So you need each other for a project of this scale or any significant project where infrastructure is required, because there's time in that. And each party has its own, subject matter expertise and experience in delivering those things. In our case, public infrastructure. In his case, co-working spaces and unique spaces for entrepreneurs, right? We're not going to necessarily build that, but we know we need to provide the infrastructure to do it. Risk, well, we're both taking risks, and we got to go to our individual stakeholders and say that we think this is the right thing to do and where we need to invest our money to support this private development, which will have pay dividends for generations to come. And then money. I mean, certainly we're not building things again, and Matt's not putting in public infrastructure. But together, with our time, our money together, it's multiplied exponentially, and so that's why I think time, risk, and money are reduced when you have a good public-private partnership.
Right, and we have a good track record down in Historic Dublin. We built the giant parking garage next to the library. There seems to be ample parking. Do we need more parking down there for COhatch?
No, I mean, I think that we've, through actually proper planning right, by looking at everything through the infinite studies that everyone had to do to prove you didn't need parking, like dozens of times, and to encourage people to be, if you want a walkable area, you don't want parking lots everywhere. That's the whole beauty of it. You want to use the central parking that was created so you get to create more spaces for public activities, right? So all the studies have shown we don't need it. There are some beautiful spots on the street that kind of, I think, set the tone for it. It's more of a scene setting thing than it is, there's several spots, but I actually, once you learn that you park in a garage, it's easy for people. And we think we are going to create very practical things that the city brought up. Drop-off spots for UPS and FedEx, drop-off spots for valet, for events. And then I know what I do. I go to the Pearl, I have to drop my wife off. I go park in a garage, I walk back. I mean, that's what you do. I went to downtown Columbus and I had dinner the other day. It took me forever. I dropped my wife off. I went there, came back. This is infinitely easier.
And she had finished her meal by the time.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing about parking to me is like, cities should want a parking problem. That means it's so popular you have one. Right. But now, luckily, I'm not paid to be here by any stretch of the imagination. So the city has done an unbelievably amazing job of vision casting for the future. That's the thing that Dublin, I think, does better than any city I've worked with. They know what they want. They set a plan to it. I mean, people might challenge it, but that bridge, for example, might have been controversial some of the time, but it paid for itself in the first 3 months, man. And then it activated the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Sometimes the cities need to be entrepreneurial, and I think Dublin has that, right? Practical vision casting, and then we just kind of bolt on to it, and that's where I think it wins.
Matt, we don't want to let you leave without mentioning you actually won a huge award recently from your alma mater, Miami University. You were named the 2025 #1 Red Hawk 50 honoree. Congratulations.
It was very humbling. I think when you graduate school, you always dream about being able to give back and support your alma mater, and that award was for anybody who started a business or was a CEO of a public company, and we were the fastest growing company. And it's a pretty big list of companies. It was pretty cool. So
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
In talking about your growth, I mean, your first location was 2016 and boom, it's 2026, 10 years later. So what's driven that growth?
I think several things. Well, honestly, I had a vision for creating a lot of locations. We did it, but I simply wanted to create one. I hated my job. I woke up every day dreading to go in. I literally I tell people affectionately, COhatch is nothing but my dream vision for what I want for my life, share with a lot of people. So I want to work closer to home. I have 3 kids. I want to be able to coach my son's basketball team, my daughter's basketball team. But I want really great, energetic, optimistic people working next to them every day. And I also want them around me where I want a lawyer. I don't have to pay him. I just go see him, right? So I want really good people around me. Nice. And that whole concept is switching it from just a co-working flex space, which, by the way, I've never been in a WeWork. I've never been in an Industrious. I've never benchmarked any other concept. It was just more about how do I build something for my life. That's where the idea of buying a beach house and sharing with our members came from. That's where we have scholarship programs for charities to come in and use our space. I'm like, someone asked me to use our space after hours one night in Worthington. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I mean, it's not doing anything. So that's how Free Life events started. So the whole concept evolved from being in it. And then I think by having the right strategy of being in great cities, being a part of an established great city with great schools, we can help be an accelerator to what they're trying to do. Not necessarily the only thing that we know where we're good at going now. So it's just taken off quite a bit. And I think the sky's the limit. There's no shortage of opportunities, I can tell you that.
Awesome.
Wait, I think I missed this. You said there's a beach house for members?
There is, yeah.
We're members, right, Jeremiah?
Mm-hmm.
Where's this beach? Are you using the beach house? I don't know.
It's a long pause.
For the record, no.
Okay. All right, this is awesome. So let's wrap it up. Before we do, though, we have rapid fire that we're gonna go back and forth for you guys. So, Matt, when you received the Red Hawk 50 award, you said the best undergraduate degree to get is engineering. Why is that?
Oh, I always think it's the most versatile, and it causes you to problem solve and think. And I think knowledge is going to be a commodity in the future. I think being able to think and problem solve is the key. And I also think if you could also play that off, you could turn into a doctor, a lawyer, anything else off it. So it's difficult when you go through it, but it's very versatile, and that's why I always say it's the best one.
All right, Jeremiah, you can put on your dad hat for this one. You've got 4 kids. When you're giving them advice about college, what degree would you say is the best?
Well, I would say that whatever degree they have passion for, but I would say they definitely need to expose themselves to business courses. So whether they're going to be work for someone or start a business or be a doctor or whatever, they have to have some business savviness. And if they don't understand some of those principles, so they understand who they're working with or working for, that's probably the most beneficial thing they can do for themselves, is understand the general business principles for themselves, and then even in their own life as they're making decisions for their professional career and then their personal families, things that need to make sure you understand that they have an ROI or paying for themselves when they decide where they're going to live and start a family, and where they're going to work and how they're going to set themselves up for generational success.
Question for both of you. Let's start with Matt. Best piece of career advice you ever received?
One of the favorite ones, I can't remember where I heard it from, and I tell it to people a lot. I think it goes through life and for business, is if you kind of become who you associate yourself and surround yourself with. All right. So if you're a young kid, my kids, if you're around a bunch of jerks, you're going to become a jerk. If you're around really quality kids who have their head on straight, you're probably going to do that. So if you're going to get into real estate or anything else, I'd say don't go after the money. Go after the best people that you can surround yourself with, period. More doors will open if you focus on being around them and what they know and how to do it versus chasing an extra 10 grand. So, yeah, if you have to work for free with the best people, you do it for a year.
I love that. Jeremiah, same thing.
Never turn down a coffee invitation and ask good questions.
All right, Matt, one dream store, restaurant, bar that you would love to see here.
Man, you might actually, maybe
we stumped him.
Me with that one.
Right.
I think, I don't know. As a dad, I selfishly think that there needs to be more things to do with kids, kid-friendly stuff. Sometimes I'm a big fan of like the outdoor putt-putt bar courses that, are starting to come to town.
I would say maybe, a small version of the Apple Store, a smaller version of the Apple Store somewhere in Dublin, Ohio.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Give our listeners a couple of your favorite lunch or dinner place. Start with you.
Elva Caro on Perimeter. It's my lunch place.
I've been there with him before.
Yes. Dinner. That would be one of them. And then my second one would probably be... let Matt go and then see if I can figure what.
You're going to say North High Dublin.
I thought you were
That's exactly.
I'm actually leaving that for you.
That is it.
I was leaving it for him. I was like, man, he's got I can't take his thunders.
No, North High Dublin, since obviously it's one of our places, but I do a really fun thing with a group of buddies. We have a steak club, and we go to every steak club in Columbus and rank them. So my favorite restaurant is always Hyde Park in the Upper Arlington version of it in Columbus, and big fan of Lindy's, and I think Tucci's in Dublin. I always like going there as well from a local Dublin place.
All right, fill in the blank. A successful public-private partnership is
this project. No, I'm just kidding.
I love
Riverview Village.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your short
this
sweet
story.
answer.
All right. Well, as we wrap it up, I want to say thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jeremiah, so much. I'd say we'll take this podcast on the road once this opens up. What do you say?
Absolutely. We'll stage in one of these historic homes, and we'll do it live from Riverview Village next time.
I love it. Thank you guys both for being on.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And to our listeners, thank you for taking time to connect with your city. Tune in next time as we continue to connect with the people who make Dublin a thriving place to live, work, and grow.